Learn Torah Chofay, yo. Wie halt men? Beis Gimel Aleph. Was? Wat schon du damit ja? Ja, ja. Wat schon du gelernt eine von der bisschen mit Stelle gesehen? Ja. Das ist der meiste zu sein.
Welcome everybody to Nichsefo Nafshi. Kollel Breslov here, the Torah b'Tarusa, Baruch Hashem, Amish Kiddush Hashem, what's going on here the last month or so. So shkoyach for everyone that brings Torah to this place. And a special Brichim Abuam to Reb Nasan and his Chushav Rebbetzin that's here. First of all, Reb Nasan was the one that opened up the first night of Nichsefo Nafshi. That was, I think, 16 sessions ago. Baruch Hashem, I think it's our 16th Chabura today. So Baruch Hashem, you should always come and open great things for us here. And just a special mazel tov to you and your mishpacha for coming on behalf of the bar mitzvah of Yainako. May you only come for simchas, and may you take home simcha and bring us back some simcha from Yerushalayim, Mer Kodesh.
We're in the middle of learning Torah Chofay and Likutim Aran. This Torah, this is one of the Torahs we don't know exactly when Rabbeinu Zal said it, but there's about 10 chapters of Likuti Halachos on this Torah. So Rav Nasan understood that this Torah has a lot of Yesoidus in it, tremendous Yesoidus for Avodas Hashem. The Rebbe starts off the Torah. This Torah is based on the Soved Ve'atuna, a story. We know that Yovan is known as one of the greatest adversaries of Klal Yisrael. We know that the Rebbe is madgish tremendously the union of Emunah. The Gemara says, Bo Chavakuk Hanovi Ve'midon Alachas. That if you want to know what the Yisoid of the entire Torah is, it's Emunah. And David HaMelech says until him, Kol mitzvosecha emuna. And the Rebbe started off a Torah, one of the Rosh Hashanah Torahs, shortly before he passed away, Ha'ikar hiu emuna. And the Rebbe said that a person has to search himself. V'tzorech kol echod lechapes es atzmoi ulechazek es atzmoi be'emuna. By the Welt, by the religious world, people assume a person's born into a frum family. He believes in Hashem. What's the shaila? What's the shaila? And the Rebbe understood that it's a big shaila. And the Rebbe spoke about the famous story that the Rebbe was at a chasana, at a wedding, and he saw a performance, a comedy act. That first the person came in dressed a certain way, and then he came in dressed completely different. First he came in dressed like a malach, with a white sheet and floating around, mamisha a malach, and then he ran out and came back dressed as a galach. And the Rebbe said, that's us. That's us. Ot is min malach, ot is min galach. That we need to know that the way Hashem created the world and the way Hashem created us, 1 minute a person could feel on top of the world, mamish bitla bechira, And shortly afterwards, the person could be on the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, Rachmana litzlan. Because the whole Yesoid of the whole Bria Soilam is Bechira. That's what makes us more choshuv than anything else in the whole world. The whole tachlis of the whole Bria. Because we have this Bechira, and we can go from one extreme to the other, from Malach to Galach, and back to Malach, and Rachmana litzlan back to Galach. Aliyas and Yeridas, Vayera, Vayvoiker. That's a cycle, a complete cycle, is darkness and light. So the Rebbe begins here by saying, that a Yid has to know that he has to take himself out of medame into seichel. What is seichel? Seichel is chokhmah. Kulam b'chokhmah sisa. Chokhmah is chiyus. Chokhmah is chayim. The Rebbe says in the first Torah, he quotes Shlomo Melech, "HaChokhmah techaya es ba'aleho." So a person is mekusha to chokhmah, he's alive. If a person is not mekusha to chokhmah, he's dead. He could be breathing, he could be driving a car, he could have $1 million, and he's a mess. He's a mess if he's not mekusha to chokhmah, because chokhmah is called chayim. That's chayim. And the Rebbe says here, a person has to take himself out of medame and to go up to seichel, which means that we're starting off in medame. Person's in medame is to take himself out of medame into seichel. How do you do that? So first of all, we know the Gemara says, when does a person get a yetzer hara? The moment the person is born. La pesa chatas roivetz. The second the baby comes out from the mother, the yetzer hara is there with flowers and with candy, a box of candy, and he says, I want you to enjoy your stay in this world. I'm going to do everything I can to help you to enjoy your stay in this world. I'll show you all the sights, all the good things in this world and everything. And the Rebbe said that that's koyach hamedame. The Rebbe says later we're going to give the Yetzer Hara a new name. The Medrash says the Yetzer Hara has 7 names. We're going to be moisif an 8th name. This Torah of Nosan's Mekasha to Chanukah, the 8 days of Chanukah, the Satan has 8 names. The 8th name is koyach hamedame. What does medame mean? People ask me a lot of times, how do you teach medame? The answer is, like many words in Lashon Kodesh, medame has about 7 or 8 taiches that it can mean. In this Torah, the Rebbe teaches medame, the Yetzer Hara. That it's another name for the Yetzer Hara is koyach hamedame. The word medame means imagination. The word medame means fantasy. And there are other. The word medame means similar. Ledamois milsa, to compare one thing to another. Because the Gemara tells us that what's the koyach of the Yetzer Hara? He's like a koif. What is a koif? A koif is a monkey. A monkey is an animal. But there are people that say they came from monkeys. Those people, Nastama, did come from monkeys. If he says it, Nastama, he knows. But other people, us and other people, we don't believe we came from monkeys. We know that even though a monkey looks similar to a human being, it's not a human being because it's a different level of seichel. It's a different. There's doimein, tzonea, chaim, edaber. We know that there are different levels of chiyus in the world, and different levels of seichel. Each thing has a higher level of intellect. A human being is supposed to have a higher level of seichel than a behema. Not everybody's zeicha. We know there are human beings that are lower than behemoths. We saw that there are human beings that are capable of doing things that behemoths don't do. The Nazis, Yamach Shimon v'Zichron. A behemoth doesn't do it. A behemoth doesn't kill if there isn't a reason, if it's not for food or things like that. And we see there are human beings that can go lower than a behemoth even, on a lower level. So the word medame, and one of the taiches of the Yetzer Hara, that he's kikoif levnei adam. What does a koif do? A koif copies what a human being does a lot of times. And the Yetzer Hara copies the Kedusha. He wants to make believe the Kedusha is called Chaim, so they say Coke is life. You look at the advert, Coke is life. The Coke is life? Lahavdol, the Eibishter says, the Torah, Kihu Chayecha V'Orach Yamecha. That's Coca-Cola, that's life. But the Yetzer Hara tries to make believe that what he's offering, money, $1 million, $100 million, that's life. If that's life, how come those people are all committing suicide? Either they're committing suicide or they're on drugs or if that's life, Elamai, it's not life, it's medame, it's make-believe. The Yetzer Hara is able to make it look as if that's simcha. as if a person who has a lot of money, mistama, he's happy. And some of them make believe that they're happy because they're embarrassed. If people see they're not happy, they'll think, Mommy is a gornish. He doesn't have anything. So they make believe. But the Torah testifies, Mar ben achosim, mar bedaiga, that unless a person has Maimon dikdusha, by Maimon dikdusha, the pasuk says, Birkas Hashem hitashir, v'lo yosef otsev hima. That when money is Birkas Hashem, when a person knows that it's the Eibishter's, it's Hashem's money, and everything I have Hashem gave me, and a person gives Meiser from, he's Mekadesh his money, gives Meiser, gives Tzedakah, that money is Birkas Hashem v'lo yosef otsev hima. There's no atzvus. That money is Simcha Dikdusha. It's a holy thing. And if it's not, if a person doesn't have that, then the Torah testifies, Mar ben achosim, mar bedaiga, that more is less. The more a person has, the sadder, the more unhappy they are. The Rebbe has Torah Chav Gimel that we learn, where the Rebbe writes tremendously explaining the whole union of Taivas Maimon and Maimon Dikdusha, showing how terrible it really, Anpin Chashuchen, all the different words that the Rebbe uses to describe it. Elamai, if it's so big, so then how is it that the whole world is chasing this? How the answer is Koyach Hanedameh, that Hashem gave the Yetzer Hara a Koyach to make believe, to make it seem as if this is Oyer, as if this is Simcha, as if this is Hatzlacha, this is success. How do we define success? How much money he has, how much kavod he has, all of these things, the demyonos of this world. So we said that when does a person get a Yetzer Hara? The moment they're born, La Pesach Hatas Roivetz. When does the Yetzer Toiv come? Bar mitzvah. That means that for 13 years, the first 13 years until Bar mitzvah, the child is in Koyach Hamedameh. The child, he has the Yetzer Hara and he hasn't really gotten the Yetzer Toiv yet. And that's all the narishkeit and all the foolishness. We see a child, you buy him a car, a little car like this, a red car and a pink car and this car is, and menshel of people and everything, and the child is playing with the toys. And then you drive in the streets in the rich neighborhoods, not in the regular neighborhoods, the rich neighborhoods. And you see they also have little cars. They have the sports car that costs $200,000, a Corvette and a this. And this one has a red one, and this one has a mamish, like the small kids, like the same level of intellect, the same. And he Elamai, the child, if he knows he's a child, the other one doesn't know he's a child. He thinks he's an adult. He thinks mamish he's an Elokai, like the Rebbe said in the story about Tefillah. Mamish, that the whole world has to bow down to him because he made it in the world. He succeeded. He can afford to buy a $300,000 car, and the whole world, and it makes noise when it goes. The pasuk says, "Loi borash Hashem," so their cars make more noise and everything. This is all part of this koyach hamedameh, that there's a malach, and the Torah testifies. Don't think these are all idiots. The Torah says, "V'hanochosh shoyorum mikol chayas hasodeh," that this malach, this nochosh, is not just chacham. He's orum. He's shrewd. Shrewd means that he knows he can make it look. He can make bad look good and make good look bad. He can make things mamish upside down. The Rebbe told the Maisa, the Ben Melech and the Ben Shifchash and his halfu. So Rav Nasan writes in Likuti Halachas, look at this Meshigan Welt that we're living in. That Torah and Tefillah are called avodas Hashem. That's called avoida. This is shver arbet shver. And Taivas Olam Hazeh, that's called fun, that's called pleasure, that's called Tanugim. Mamish upside down. If a person had a little bit of brains, if a person sees that he does one mitzvah, he says one Mishnah, and they give him a suitcase with $10 million. And then he says another Mishnah, and they give him 20 million, not 10 more, 20 more, mamish. You would call that avodah? You would say it's hard? To walk, a person walks to shul on a hot day, avodas Hashem. Elamai, this is koyach hamedameh, that he's able to turn things upside down, to make good look bad, and to make bad look good. The Ashirim in the world look at the Aniyim, and they look at them like gornished and schleppers and everything, and they don't know that the Oshir can pay for a meal. He can pay $5,000 for a meal Not for 100 people, for his family, for 5 people. A bottle of wine that cost $1,000, meat that cost $1,000. And this Oshir, his meal can't come close to what the Oni feels on a Leil Shabbos with his little piece of gefilte fish with the chrein and this, that. No competition at all in the pleasure, because the Osher is thinking that probably somebody has something, he'll find out somebody else had something he didn't have. The whole Suda is, he'll kill himself. He's ready to commit suicide or kill the other person because the other person has all the different things. And the Oni is Sameach Bechelkoi. Mamash, he's on top of the world. He's the luckiest. The Rebbe told the story of the Chacham and the Tam. Elamai, there's a koyach. The Rebbe is Megala, an incredible secret here. That if you don't know who you're dealing with, you have to know who your opponent is. If you don't know who you're dealing with, you don't know what to expect, and suddenly you get fadreit. But if the Rebbe is moidi up front, you should know that this is who he is. The Rebbe says in Torah Aleph, he could have a beard and payas, he could be a mamish, a biber hit and a shtreimel 6 feet high and everything. The Rebbe says that the Soton is nislabesh b'mitzvos, that's his thing, medama, upside down, everything reverse. But be careful, be careful. Afal pike malach maziku. He wants to kill you. And sometimes he doesn't even want you, he's not satisfied with killing you. He wants that you should be in Gehenim, lo'el meyadu and eitzach nitzochem. He's your worst enemy. And this is koyach hamedamim. And the Rebbe says that our mission in this world is to go out of, to take myself out of medama and to go to seichel. Where is the seichel? The seichel is in the Torah Kedosha. Where is the seichel? By the tzadikim amitiyim. They're the ones, they're the balei seichel. What's taich? The Rav Nasan says a lot of times, the Gemara says, La'olam ein adam choyte, elam ki nichnas boi ruach shtus. That avera, bal avera means shoyte. He could be a scientist, he could be a mathematician, he could be a Talmud Chacham, he could be somebody, he could know Shas. But he's not Mekayim, he learns as Yerovam ben Avot. Yerovam ben Avot was a big Chacham, but a big Shegitz, an Ovid Avodah Zarah, Rachmana Litzlan, everything, a tremendous Ovid Avodah Zarah. So where does a person go to look for Chachma? The Chacham is the one who's Mekayim the Torah. That's the Chacham. Because the Gemara says, Ein adam chaytem nechas b'rosh shtus. That Aveira means shoyte. Aveira means lack of Chachma. That he allowed the Ruach Shtus to replace the Chachma, to take it. So this is why we learn Torah. This is why we look for the tzadikim amitiyim, those who are mekayim the Torah, because we know those are the real balei seichel. Those are the real chachamim. And the Rebbe, so step 1 is to go out of medame into seichel, to know here again, to know where am I now? There's lights. Look at all the lights in this room, and today there's 300 different kinds of lights. There's incandescent light, and there's this light, and all kinds of lights, and it's all darkness. It's all medame. It's medame. We are in an oilam hasheker. A lot of times when I'm in Eretz Yisrael, I say, person's rechoiv me'eshorim, rechoiv yoin anovi, and on bottom it says sheker, rechoiv sheker, 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 sheker. That the Torah says that this world is an oilam hasheker. It's an oilam hasheker. And if a person doesn't know that, he looks around, he sees things, he sees Coke is life, and he could think maybe it's true. But if a person reminds himself all the time that the Torah says, I'm in an oilam hasheker, and my mission is in this oilam hasheker to search for emes, because sheker is death, and emes is chayim, and samodachaya it's called. Emes is samodachaya. So if I chas v'sholom, if I allow myself to follow the sheker of this world, and so in this oilam hasheker, I have to search for the emes. And it's not possible that there isn't emes. That's another big mistake that people make. That people think that there are people that believe that once upon a time there was a Moshe Rabbeinu, there were tzaddikim, but today we have nothing. There are people that talk like that, even from people. And it's kfira. It's kfira because the Gemara says that the Eibishter would never leave the world. There has to be bechira. So if the Sitra Achra has tremendous koyach, there has to be at least an equal opposite koyach of the kedusha. Otherwise, there's no bechira. So that if there's a lot of sheker, if there's harbe sheker, if there's hastora shebetoich hastora, then there has to be an oyer godel. There has to be a tremendous oyer so that there's bechira. Elamai, I have to look for it. The vanoichi astir means that I have to look for it. I have to take myself out of the medame and get into the seichel. And then the Rebbe says that even after a person is matzliach in getting out of the sheker and going into seichel, he's not finished. That's the beginning. Then starts the whole process of climbing the ladder. Just like there's a famous halacha in Likuta halacha, silcha shluch and halacha hey, where the Rebbe, the last shir that the Rebbe gave in his life, the Torah Tiku Teichocho, the Rebbe spoke about the chipus for the tzaddik, that a person has to search, and it's worth spending a person's whole life to search to find the tzaddik. So Reb Nasan writes in Likuta halachas, and what happens once the person finds the tzaddik? He's finished, he makes a siyum. He doesn't make a siyum, that's when he has to make a haschola. That's when the search first begins. To search for what? To search for the Ruach HaKodesh of the tzaddik. Because a person can be by the tzaddik and he doesn't see anything. The Rebbe writes in the Torah Nikutimran that two people can be in Gan Eden. One person feels nothing, he doesn't see anything, he doesn't know anything, and the other person sees tremendous oiros. So once a person comes to the tzaddik, that's when the search first begins. That's when to be megala the oyer, to be megala the oyer of the tzaddik, to be megala the emes of the tzaddik. A person's learning Torah. Most people think a person's learning Torah. That's it. There's nothing more than that. Learn more Torah. What's the shaila? The Bnei Yisachar writes in a place that for a person to be zoicha to the emes of the Torah is a higher madrega than Gilui Elianovi. Person would say, "Versteinish." The whole Nasan lonu Torah semet. What do you mean? There's an emes in the Torah. There's a sheker in the Torah. The answer is, of course. The Gemara says, "V'zois haTorah she'som Moshe lefnei bnei Yisrael," that the Torah is samchaim or samoves. There are people that learn Torah, and the Torah puts an armimius, an anocha shoyorim. The Torah puts an armimius in the person, a shakran, a tzavua, Rahman al-San, all kinds of terrible things. And for a person to be zoicha to the emes of the Torah, to take himself out of medameh, and to get to the emes of the Torah, that's a higher ramah than Gilui Novi. And he says, I'll prove it to you. He says, the Gemara says in the beginning of Gittin, Daf Gvov, the Gemara there talks about a Rebbe of Yosar. And the Gemara says, Rebbe of Yosar met Elianovi and he spoke to him and everything. Then a few lines later, the Gemara has a whole shakla v'tari. Rebbe of Yosar said something, and he's right, he's wrong, he's not. Versteinish. A minute ago you told me he's talking to Elianovi, and now we have a question whether his pshat, whether he learned the right pshat or wrong pshat. So he says, from here we see that for a person to be zoicha to the emes of the Torah is a higher madrega than Gilui Elianovi, which means that a person has to be mispalel. How does a person get to the emes of the Torah? Through tefillah. A person has to be mispalel that Hashem should open my eyes, that I should be zoicha to see the emes of the Torah. I shouldn't be fooled. I shouldn't be tricked. I remember als Bocher, when I first came to Breslov, I was zoicha to be in Eretz Yisrael, to sit by the shirum of Rabbi Yechaim Roisen Zichron Livrocha. So he once told a moshel, an incredible moshel, that's shaykh to this, that's shaykh to a lot of things, where he said there were a group of friends, chaverim and freiliche, and they like to have fun sometimes, and one of them liked to drink. So every once in a while they would play a trick on him. They would get him drunk to see a shikar asachmol. He says interesting things, megala soides and everything. One day they decided on a real interesting plan. They knew that the galach in the city, a galach doesn't, in those days, a galach had nothing to steal. He didn't have a lot of money or anything. He didn't steal rob from people. So he didn't have to lock his doors. So they watched to see when the galach goes out of his house, when he comes back. And they came up with a plan that they took this chaver and they made him shikar. They got him to drink and drink. And when he was good drunk, they took him into the house of the Galach, and they dressed him, they put on the clothes, the robes of the Galach and everything, and they sat him in the chair over there, and they went outside to watch what's going to happen when he wakes up. What's going to happen when he gets up? And he sees himself in the Galach's house, and he's dressed like a Galach and everything. They're looking at it, they're looking through the window, and they see he wakes up, and he looks at himself. Was war Mashigan Azach? Ich heiss Chaim Burak Goldstadt. What's that? Ich bin nicht kein Galach. Ich gelernt in Chayder, ne? But if I'm not the guy, why am I in this house? Why am I dressed like this? I have to be a Galach. And he's going a shikar. Everything he's thinking, he says, he's going back and forth, all kinds of chakiras, why he's not the Galach. He remembers Aleph Bey, he remembers learning Aleph Bey, but I'm here in the house. If I'm not the Galach, why would I be here? Back and forth. And then they see suddenly, he looks up and he sees the Sforim Shafa. And he has a big smile on his head. He says, ich bin nicht kanar, I'm not a fool. Watch this. I'm going to know in 1 minute if I'm the Galach or not. If I can read the Sforim, then I know I'm a Galach. And if not, it'll be a clear proof that I'm not the Galach. So he goes over to the Sforim Shaf, he takes out one of the Sforim. Their Sforim are written in Latin, and he's holding it, and he doesn't know how to, Maltes Azoi, he closes it. I knew it. Ich bin nicht kein Galach, Meshigan Azav. What kind of crazy, ridiculous thing to think that I'm the Galach? Then they see he's sitting and he's thinking, and a big smile comes across his face. And he says, now I really know now I know the Emes Lamitoi. Really, I am the Galach. There's no Shaila. I'm dressed like a Galach. I'm in the house and everything. The Kasha, I can't read the books. The answer is, all the Galachim can't read the books. They're all fakers and phonies. They're all fooling. This story I heard in Mea Shorim from Rebbe Chaim Roizen Zichron Levrocha, from a Breslov Chussid. What was the punchline? He said, "Dus is ins, that's us." A bocher gets bar mitzvah, and we betit him on a kapelage and a strama, and we rieft him tzaddik, and he's wonder. I'm not. He looks at it. He knows he's not a tzaddik yet. He tries to daven shachris, and he's thinking about breakfast and lunch. The kol minei shtisim and everything. They're calling me a tzaddik, and I'm dressed mamish like an admor and everything, and mamish a heilige man, heilige. So he's wondering. He doesn't know. Could it be that this is tzaddik? Tzaddik is somebody who's dressed like a tzaddik. If I have a beard and payas, I must be a tzaddik. What's the shaila? But then he reads the Gemara, and he hears the Gemara says that Kol Aloymei Torah Lishmo Zochel Dvorim Harbe, and he's an Onov, and he has Yira Megamoi Rosanoi Raisa, and he knows he's the furthest thing in the world from that. So what's going on here? So most people come to the conclusion. The answer is they're all galach. Everyone's a galach. Everyone's phony. There's all fakes. There's no such thing as a tzaddik today. Proof is, if I can't daven with kavana, then mistama nobody davens with kavana. Everybody's faking it. So I don't have to search for a tzaddik. It's all baloney. If I would have lived 5,000 years ago, maybe what? But today, for sure, there's no such thing as Yira Shamayim. There's no such thing as tzaddikim, and it's a mistake, because if that ever happened, imloy brisi chukoi shamayim voretz loy samti as I state, that if there's no tzaddik in the world, that the world is finished. Hashem closes the lights. The Zohar Kodesh says that there was once a time when there weren't 30 tzaddikim like Avram Avinu, and Hashem sent a malach to erase the world. The whole story in the Zohar Kodesh, and Reb Shimon Yehoy saved the whole world. So that there has to be a tzaddik. Elamai, I'm not the tzaddik. One thing's for sure, I'm not the tzaddik. I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu. So I have to go see who is. I have to go search and find who is the Moshe Rabbeinu. Who's the Chacham who emes? Who's the Chacham who understands that who's Zocha to the Amitasa Shel Torah, and he's Zocha to Kiyum HaTorah, he's Mekayim the Torah. Somebody asked me last night, I was giving a shiur in Brooklyn last night, and the Rav there, after the whole shiur, said to me, can I ask you a question? In what way is Breslov different, if you had to say, what is Breslov different than Satmar, Chabad, Bells, all the different Hasidiyas? So I said to him, that's a very delicate question. That's not stam. Because a Yid has to, the Rebbe said, if you want to have Hasmada, if you want to be able to learn Torah with Hasmada, don't say anything against any Yid. Don't talk against the Yid. You passel one Yid, you're passing an ois in the Sefer Torah. The whole Sefer Torah is passel, chas v'shalom. So Allah has kama v'kama. If you're talking about Hasidim, to go say something against, you have to be very, very careful. I said, I'll mention two, there's a lot to say about this, but I'll mention two things. One of the things is tefillah, that the Rebbe said, Vani tefillah, like David HaMelech said, Vani tefillah, that the ikar that I came to the world was to revive, not to invent. The Rebbe didn't invent his Spoidus, to revive a lost art. A few thousand years ago, there were Yidden who talked to Hashem all day. But we're in Golus, Vayisavu Bagoyim, Vayildu Maseyim, and it's a lost art. The ability to daven with kavona, the ability that it should be ula'ovdoi b'chol levavchem, it should be avoida shebelev, is something that most people forgot. They don't think it exists. They don't think it's possible. So the Rebbe was megala. He revived his spoidedus, that it's shad that a person can daven in his own language and his own words. And the Rebbe said in Loshen Kodesh, it's very hard because if it's not your first language, it's more difficult to put your heart into it and to really express yourself. But a person, it's not chas v'shalom, his spoidedus is not instead of shachris mincha marav or instead of tehillim, but it opens up a person's eyes, it opens up a person's heart to see that meken weinen in davening. A person talks in Yiddish, in his own language, in English, whatever it is, and he really expresses himself and he starts crying. And the person does, I can't believe it, I can't believe it's me, I can't believe I can cry in tefillah. So the person knows that they can do it in Shachris also, they can do it in other tefillahs also. So that's one Iker Dogish in Breslov. The Indian, a person has spoilers. You tell people, so, das ist not Breslov, es sagt, steigt alles vor him. Of course, steigt alles vor him. Wer ist Mekayim? Steigt es vor him, everybody knows. But who does it, and who does it daily, every day? And who is Koiveya Azman and Amokim? There are Bochrim in Breslov, that Admorim and Rosh Yeshivas would wish they could do it. They would wish they could sit for a half hour, for 30 minutes, or 40 minutes, or 60 minutes, and talk to the Eibishter. Person tries to do it for 5 minutes, and they see it's a difficult thing. And there are Bochrim today, hundreds of Bochrim, who go out to the Feld, Baruch Hashem, in Eretz Yisrael. They go out to the Feld at night and talk to Hashem, big fears. They fight. So that's one Nekuda. And I said the second Nekuda is the Shulchan Aruch. The Rebbe told us that Chasidus is not a heter to be mevatel the Shulchan Aruch. Chasidus isn't instead of halacha. Chasidus is lifnim mishur sadin. It means that you're mekayim the din, you're mekayim the halacha betachlis hashleimus, and in addition to the halacha, you're being moisef v'hoilech. The Rebbe brings from the Ariya Kodesh that horiu l'Hashem kol haaretz. The whole world has to give praise to Hashem. Horiu l'Hashem kol haaretz is Rosh Tevis halacha. Hishtachavu l'Hashem bahadras kodesh is Rosh Tevis kabbalah. That's those who want to go lifnim. A person wants to be lifnim ishura sadin. He wants to get closer to Hashem. So this is the union of a person taking himself out of the medame, out of the demyonos, out of the shtusim of this world, and going into seichel. But then the Rebbe says that's not enough. A person, now the Rebbe adds an important point. He says that on every single darga, this isn't a one-time thing that a person fights this battle, and if he wins, gendikt. The Rebbe says on every single level there are demyonos. On every single level. I was just learning Chaim Aran recently. The Rebbe had vikuchim with the Tzadikei Adoyer at that time, with the Neshchiza, with Rabbi Ayemi about Chezyonos. These tzaddikim said they saw the Malach Memtes, and they described how they saw it and everything. And the Rebbe shook his head and he said, that's not how you see him. That's not how they see it. And then one of the tzaddikim was arguing with him, a lot, the whole story. The Rebbe was been by a Shabbos, and he said Torah Friday night, and he said Torah Shabbos in the morning, he said Torah Shalashidus, and all the Torah was around this topic of Chezyonos. And this tzaddik wanted to show, he wanted to prove that he sees. And the Rebbe afterwards quoted the Gemara, which said that there were many that thought that there were many that wanted to see and that they weren't zeicha. You mean to say that it's shaykh on that madrega that these tzaddikim could have demyonos? The answer is it's shaykh. This is one of the mistakes that many people make. One of the excuses that a person uses not to look for a tzaddik, or not to. All tzaddikim, koyrach, kollel kulam kedoshim, all rebbes are tzaddikim. Everybody's good. A person here sees what koyrach said. Mamash has to get an award. Mamash one of the finer Yidden that doesn't speak against other Yidden. He says ki kollel kulam kedoshim, and for this the Eibishter gave him such a patch that the Eibishter opened up the Adama and swallowed up the whole thing because he said ki kollel kulam kedoshim. What's wrong? What's wrong? The answer is what's wrong is that's kfira. A person who says kol everyone is the same. In the Declaration of Independence it says that all men created equal, but in the Torah it doesn't say that. It doesn't say. The Zohar HaKodesh gives an incredible revelation. The Zohar HaKodesh, we're not talking about Korach. Let's talk about Yeshaya Hanavi. Yeshaya Hanavi, one of the Chof Dalet Sifrei Tanakh. We're not talking about a Tana. We're talking about somebody on a much higher madrega than a Tana. The Zohar HaKodesh says that Yeshaya Navi begins Chazoin Yeshayo Ben Omoitz Asher Chozo. What did he? And he said, Shimi Shamayim Vazini Eretz Ki Hashem Diber. Sheina Verta, right? Very nice. The Zohar HaKodesh says that when he said those words, Shimi Shamayim Vazini Eretz, the Malachim heard it, and they said, "Who is this? What kind of chutzpah? A Ben Adam, a Yelud Isha says Shimi Shamayim?" And the Zohar HaKodesh says they picked up eisen adrangen, they picked up metal sticks to smash his head. And Yeshaya Navi saw these malachim, so he said, Ki Hashem diber, I'm not giving an egg and a drosha here. I'm a Navi, I'm going to say the words of Hashem 100%. No haisofos, nothing. So the Zohar HaKodesh says they put down, they didn't beat him up. They didn't ask him mechila, they didn't beat him up. Azoy steht in the Zohar HaKodesh. Moshe Rabbeinu says, now the Zohar HaKodesh says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Hazinu hashamayim va'adabeira, v'sishma ha'oretz imrefi. And the Zohar HaKodesh says, when he said those words, any malach that was in the middle of a shlichus, the shlichus stopped. The whole bria, birds that were flying, stopped. Fish in the yam stopped. The entire bria stopped and waited to listen to the Parshas Azinu, the Shiras Azinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshaya Navi. Now the Zohar HaKodesh says, let's look at the words here. He says, Shimi Shamayim Vazini Eretz. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Pink Fakert, Hazinu Hashem. Manishtana. When a person says, Shema Yisrael, when you're talking to people who are far away, you say Shema. When you're sitting right next to somebody and you want him to listen to you, say Lahazim. Yeshaya Hanavi was closer to Eretz than he was to Shamayim. That's why he said Shimi Shamayim Vazini Eretz. Moshe Rabbeinu is closer to Shamayim than he is to Eretz. That's why he says Hazinu HaShamayim V'sishma Eretz. Yeshaya Hanavi says Shamayim Stam, Eretz Stam. Moshe Rabbeinu says Hazinu HaShamayim. I know that there isn't one Shamayim. There are 7 levels in Shamayim. There's different dargas of Malachim, Oifanim and Chayos and Srofim. I'm talking to you, to the highest darga in Shamayim, HaShamayim, the highest level in Shamayim. You also listen to what I'm going to say now. V'sishma ha'oretz, also all the different arotzos, all the different planets. And then the Zohar HaKodesh says that when Moshe Rabbeinu spoke, every word was yichudim. Hashamayim v'sishma is Rosh Tevas Hey Vov. V'sishma ha'oretz is Vov K. Every word coming out of his mouth was yichudim. Why is the Zohar HaKodesh telling us this? That a Yid has to know that there's a tzaddik and there's a tzaddik. And no two tzaddikim are the same. No two tzaddikim are the same. The Rebbe says in a Torah Chesed Likutim, he quotes the Gemara, Tachrish kivala horosho tzaddik mimenu. Be quiet. Don't get into an argument with a Russia. Don't challenge a Russia, because there are times that the Russia is menatzeach. And the Gemara says, Tzadik mimenu boilea, Tzadik gomor einoi boilea. That one who is more religious than him, the Russia can swallow him. A time when the Russia is having his nitzachon, he can swallow a Tzadik. But Tzadik gomor einoi boilea. A Tzadik gomor, he can go into the place of the Sitrachra over there and go into his midorah where he's drawing the schiyas from and be mavatal him. So here again, we see that it's not kol eida kulam kedoshim. That there's tzaddikim and there's tzaddikim gemurim. There's tzaddik, tzaddik emes. There's hat tzaddik. There's all dargas and dargas. And here, if Rabbeinu Zal talks about a person taking himself out of the medameh and going to seichel, person needs to know that in this olam hasheker, where the koyach hasheker is so strong, and the Torah tells us as we get closer to the coming of Mashiach, it's going to get darker and darker. Hastora shebetoich hastora. What's taich hastora shebetoich hastora? That the fact that Hashem is nistor, that fact is hidden. A person, what does that mean? People think they're tzaddikim. People think, mamish, there are people that are worried if Mashiach's going to come, he'll make problems. I have my mikveh, I have my shield, I have my kigel, everything. I have my Mashiach come. Who knows what kind of problems he'll make? Besser kennen nishmachen. We're the best of the best. We have mamish super glad. We have the best of the best of the best. That's taich hastora shebetoch. That's taich medame dimyoinos. That a person doesn't know that he doesn't know. He doesn't realize that it's a cholon. It's hayinu kecholmim. That golus is called hayinu kecholmim. It's medame. It's being in the medame. And in order to get out of the medame, you need to get to the seichel of kedusha. Now the Rebbe says, "V'efshel lachniya haklipois, hainu adimyoinos v'machshavos, v'tayvos v'bilbo." Here he teaches again what is medame, dimyoinos, machshavos, all kinds of false, silly machshavos, tayvos, bilbulim, meniyos. All of that is included in this umbrella term of medame. Ela al yidei gedula saboirei. The only way a person can get himself out of this medame is through gedula saboirei, which means recognizing how great, the greatness of Hashem. And the Rebbe mentions, the Arizal says, that an example of this is certain chapters of Tehillim. The Arizal says that when we're davening Shachris, we're traveling through the Oilamos. When a person says, Karbonos, he's in the Oilam Asiyah, Psuke de Zimra is Yetzira, Kriyashma Berchaisea is Oilam Akisei, and Shmoyne Esrei is Atzilus. And the Arizal says that when you want to go from Asiyah to Yetzira, then there's a whole new battle against the Koyach HaMedama. On every floor, there's the demyonis of that floor. How we machnia the klipos of the Olam HaYetzira? Through Hoidu. By saying, Hoidu Lashem Kiru Vishmoy Hoidiu V'amim Aliloisav. That's Taich Gedula Saboire. By talking about the greatness of Hashem, that's how a person takes himself out of the Medama. Is it only Hoidu? The answer is, this is Bechlal. We know the Gemara says, what is Tefillah? That the minimum ingredients in a Tefillah are Shvochoy Shel Mokoim and Shilas Tzrochov. That's this Cheref Bifiyos. So when a person is Oisek in Shvochoy Shel Mokoim, when a person, the Rebbe says that Tehillim is Mesugal Tshuva. Why? Because what is Tehillim? Tehillim is Shvochoy Shel Mokoim. Tehilos, being Meshaber Deibeshter. A person says Tehillim, he's being Megale Gedula Saboire. He's speaking about Gedula Saboire. When you reveal Gedula Saboire, the klipos run away, the demyoines become bottled. I give a mushal a lot of times. People go to a bungalow colony in the summer or places like that. A lot of times at night, you get up in the middle of the night, the person has to go to the bathroom. So they turn on the lights. Suddenly they see all kinds of little things running away, running to hide. What's going on here? When it was choshech, when there's choshech, they live in the choshech. That's their place. When you turn on the lights, they run. That chases them away. That's taich gedula saboire. Being megala, a person's megala gedula saboire, he's turning on the lights. He's saying that in this oilam hachoshech, there's no teva. It's not nature isn't running the world. Hashem hu alikim. The teva is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Eibishter is running the world. The more you're megale gedula sabayre, the more you take yourself out of the demyonos and out of this koyach hamedame, yomachni the medame. And the Rebbe said, the Rebbe gives another eitzah, tzedakah. Why tzedakah? Because tzedakah, money, is the worst thing in the world. It's avi avoy satuma, and it's kodesh kadoshim. Money is elile kesef, elile zohov. And out of all of the taivois, in certain ways, it's worse than all the other ones, because the Rebbe says all the other ones, there's a svia. A person eats, how much can you eat? You can eat 4 kugels, 6 kugels. There's a limit. When it comes to money, there's no limit. Oyev kesef, lo yizba kesef. It's unlimited, infinite, ein soif. Lahavdol, the Eibishter is ein soif. The sitra achra of money is ein soif. It's drinking salt water. The more and in that respect, it's different than achila. It's different than taivas noshim. All of those things have a certain gvul. Money, there's no gvul at all. Now, if a person takes this elile kesef, elile zov, and gives tzedakah, which means he's being mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the money. He's showing it's not my money. My money, why would I give my money to any? It's not my money, it's the Eibishter's money. And it's a shutfus with the Eibishter. And the Eibishter says, we'll be partners. What kind of partners? 90-10. You keep 90, you give me 10. That's a partnership. You like that? Wonderful. You don't like it? We'll change. You'll get the 10 and I'll keep the 90. The Gemara Tosfos brings a story about a person who suffered. He couldn't handle it. His father was an osher, a big veer, and the father was about to pass away, and he told his son, listen very carefully. The Eibishter geholfen am matzliach, you see what matzliach, do as I do. Give tzedakah, give meiser. So Tosfos says the first year he did it. He had fields and everything. They produced a lot of crops and everything. And then they loaded up the agolos, to take away, to give to the aniyim. The second year he made more crops. And he sees them loading up all of these wagons to take it away. He couldn't do it. He couldn't handle it. He plats. No, don't do it. The third year, he got 10%. The third year, Hashem gave him meiser. And Hashem kept the 90%. So Tosfos says his neighbors came, they dressed up in their Shabbos clothes to come to say good yontif to him. So he said, you're laughing at me, you want to make fun of me? So we're not making fun. This is Hashem, this is Giloy Elokut, this is Gedula Saboire. Hashem showed you very clearly that if you're willing to have a healthy partnership, Gesintheit. No, we're still partners. We just change roles. I keep the 90 and you get the 10 this time. So the Rebbe says that a person who gives tzedakah, that tzedakah is Gedula Saboire. When a person gives tzedakah, the Arizal says by words, V'ato Moshel Bakoil, because here you're being Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're being Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu over the Melech of the whole world. What's the Melech of the whole world? Money. Osher Yana Azus, and money talks, Kesef Yana Sakoil, and a person takes this and he's machnia this to the Eibishter. This is a Gilui of Gedula Saboire. So here is an interesting point. My Rebbe Zichron of Rav Rosenfeld said he was zeicha to be a Talmud Chacham and also to raise a lot of money for tzedakah, for Breslov, for all kinds of inyanim in Breslov. And he taught his Talmidim Meiser, Kodesh Kadoshim. The Zohar Kodesh says on the pasuk Aser Ta'aser, the Zohar Kodesh says that we know there's Yaakov and Yisrael. Yaakov is Miloshin Ekev. Yaakov refers to the Yidden when we're on the Lo Madrega. Yisrael is Li Roish. Yisrael is... How is a Yid Zoiche to be called Yisrael? The Zohar Kodesh says, Aser Ta'aser. This mitzvah, if a person is Zoiche to give Meiser B'Kedusha, that gives him, that earns him this title Yisrael. Why? The word Yisrael is Bigematria 541. Aser Ta'aser is Bigematria 540, Elef, and 1,000. 1,540. Echo Yirdoif Echo Delef, we know that 1 and 1,000 are the same. Aleph and Elef, it's the same thing. The Zohar Kodesh says that it's this union of Meiser that earns a person this title, this holy title, Yisrael, to be a member of Yisrael, Li Roish. So my Rebbe said that a person's going to come to the Bezin Shamala and he's going to say he's a Breslov Chassid. They're going to say, prove it. He's going to say, sure, ich zog tikna kloli jeden tog. Not a proof. There are Satma Hasidim, there are other Hasidim that say tikna kloli every single day, and you ask him, bist du Breslov? No, bin ich kein Breslov. Oh, but tikna kloli, schöne Sache, alles verwusst nicht. Person's going to say he goes to Uman. He goes to Uman for Rosh Hashanah. He's a Zichra Breslover, Nishkin Breslover. There are many people who go to Uman for Rosh Hashanah, and you ask him, "Are you a Breslover?" I'm not a Breslover. I like the music, I like the food, I like the davening, whatever each one coming for his thing. But I'm not a Breslover. But he said a person will say, "I give my meiser to Breslov." That they can't be makhish. That a person they can't say you're not a Breslov. That a person who's not a Breslover wouldn't do. Somebody comes knocking on the door, people come, can I know her? More people every day. You give what you can. You give $1, you give a 50, a quarter, each person his madrega. But my meiser is kodesh to my Rebbe. That's my Rebbe, that's my tzaddik. Person who does that's so here this is one of the places in Likutim where the Rebbe talks about stokah. That stokah is gedula saboire. Stokah takes a person out of medame into the seichel, which means that's the whole tafkid of a person in this world, to get out of the medame, to get into the seichel. And then the Rebbe says that this takes place on every level, that it's not a one-time thing, that a yid has to be constantly going from madrega to madrega, and he has to know on every level there's the demyonos, and he has to battle the demyonos on that madrega, be machniya them, and then keep going higher. So Rav Nasan Likuti Alochas in Hilchas Chanukah writes that the word Chanukah is miloshin chinuch. Chinuch means basic education of Avodas Hashem. Chanukah, there are two nisim of Chanukah. Nes number one is the Chashmonoim against the Yevonim. What is Yavon? Yavon is Chachma. The Yevonim were what kind of Chachamim? Chachamim Lahora. Chachamim of the Sitra Achra. Philosophia. Greek philosophia. We know, and here again, we know we talked about Yeshaya Novi. The Rambam who is the Yesoid of the whole Shulchan Aruch. The whole Shulchan Aruch is built on the Rambam, the Yesoidus of the Rambam. The Vilna Gaon writes in Hilchas Moinen and Mechashev that when the Rambam says that Kameis, we don't believe Kameis is nothing, Kameis and Shadim, all of this stuff is nothing, the Vilna Gaon writes that we know that the Chachamim of his doer, Kfar Hiku Oisal Kalkodoi, they already hit him over the head. And Hafilosophia, because he studied philosophy, it took him off the derech. And that's what allowed him to deny, to be koifer in Shadim and Kameis and all of these things. And the Vilna Gaon there brings 10 different places in Shas, where the Gemara talks about Kishuf and Shadim and all of these things. It's Gemara Mefureshes. So how is it possible? That the Rambam should say such a thing, should deny this? The answer is, he writes there, Hafilosophia tisoisoi. The Rebbe gives so many azhoros, warnings, stay away from chakiros, stay away from philosophy, it's poison. Rav Nasan once said that the Rambam writes in the Hagdoma to his Sefer, that Sefer, he writes that this Sefer is not for everybody. 1 in 1,000 people will understand this. So Rav Nasan said, the 999 we saw, the one we haven't seen yet, the 999 who will be hurt by learning this Sefer, those we saw, that if they'll go into Chakiris, they'll study philosophy, it'll take them off the derech, that we saw already. The one who will go into these Chakiris and it'll make him a bigger Yirei Shamayim, that we haven't seen yet. Because the Koyach HaMedame is so strong. This is the 8th name. So so on Chanukah, we have the Milchama of the Tzadikim against the Rishon. The Chochma de Gdusha, the Chochma So'emes against the Medame. The Arizal brings that the Shmoina Neiros of Chanukah are connected the 8 times we say Emes in Shachris. Emes v'yatzav enochen from Kriya Shema till Shmoyne Esrei. It says 8 times Emes. Those are the 8 Neiros of Chanukah. That's the Seichel D'Gdusha. Zelu Maseh, you have Yovan, which is Choshech. The second pasuk in the Torah. V'horetz soyu v'avoyu v'choshech. Mentions Choshech is Yovan. Choshech is Yovan. Such beautiful binyanim, such beautiful books. It's Choshech, it's Medam, it's Demyonos. It looks like it's make-believe Chachma. It's not real Chachma. And then the Nichsefo Hoylech, that the fact that we follow Beis Hillel, we add new Neiros every day to show that a Yid can't stay on the same Madrega. If a Yid is in the same place 2 days in a row, it means, you read, that means he went down, Chas v'Shalom. One of the Rebbe's Talmidim said that if my Kriya Shema today is going to be the same as my Kriya Shema yesterday, I'm ready to put my head on I should chop off my head, cut off my head. We should be Zoicha. We should be Zoicha. Each one of this Torah has maybe 10 halachas and likuti halachas. You learn the Torah and likuti Moran, it's oyer. You learn the likuti halachas, it's oyer ha'oros. It's a whole different league of Havana, of seeing what the Rebbe is really talking about. And then we have a likuti tefillos. We know that a person could learn and learn and learn and not get to the emes of the Torah yet, not get to be mekayim the Torah. If a person is zocheh to make the shiluv of Torah and tefillah, that's the tachlis hashleimus. On Chanukah, we have the Shmoina Neiros of Chanukah. Why Shmoina Neiros? Because the chinuch is Torah and tefillah, the chamisha chumshei Torah and the shloisha tefillos. That's the shleimus. Shpizoicha by learning the Rebbe Zeitzos, being mekayim the Rebbe Zeitzos, to get out of the medam and not to fool ourselves. We shouldn't fool other people, and we shouldn't fool ourselves. I'll close with a word from my Rebbe Rav Rosenfeld. He said a beautiful thing. The Mishnah says in Peah that if a person, talking about tzedakah, that a person goes to collect tzedakah, if he has a short beard, they'll give him $1. If he has a longer beard, they might get $1.50. And if he wears a zad and a bekasher, they'll give him $2. And if he puts on a patch on his eye that he can't see, or if he brings a shtek and he's limping, they'll give him $4, $5. So the Mishnah says there that if a person makes believe he's blind in order to get more money, he's not going to leave the world without being blind. If he makes believe he's a cripple. So Rav Rosenfeld asked, what if he makes believe he's a tzaddik? He won't leave the world without becoming a tzaddik? What's taich? So he said he thought about it, and he said he understood. Such a person, first he starts off knowing he knows he's not a tzaddik, he's just fooling the people. If he does this enough, the oynish is he's going to start thinking he's a tzaddik. And that's the biggest oynish in the world. That's the biggest problem. When a person fools themselves, when he falls into the medama that he thinks he's the tzaddik, finished, because then he's not going to look for it. He's not going to look for a tikkun. We should be zocheh to become a kurav to the tzaddikim amitiyim, to the Torah semes, to be zocheh to be as Mashiach b'meher b'yameinu, omen v'yomen.
Amen.
It's a deacon that get these Rosary in line. How do we tap into that?
We have to search. The Shrina Rav writes that we believe that usually the tzaddikim amitiyim are the ones who are makushal to this tzaddik. The Shrina Rav, the Nachman Shirin. The person has to search the whole life, searching for the emes within the medama, within the sheker, within the Alam HaSheker.
Skayach.